Hey everyone, this is Ash DeCosta, CTO of Mainland Information Systems, and I'd like to welcome you to our technology panel discussion. Today we have NetApp in the house in the form of a pair of Keiths. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves.
Sure, my name is Keith Aasen. I'm a consulting systems engineer with NetApp. In that role, I focus on emerging technologies like cloud and virtualization. It's a national role, so I interact with customers coast to coast within Canada.
Very good.
I'm Keith Purslow. I'm a NetApp systems engineer based here in Calgary. I work with a variety of customers, supporting them in their technology needs.
Very good. So let's get into a discussion. So I'm hearing cloud everywhere. Everybody seems to have some form of cloud strategy. Cloud here, cloud there, private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud, and so forth. You're a storage company, and I'm wondering if it's inappropriate for me to ask what your cloud strategy is, and if you have one, how it's different compared to other cloud strategies, if you will. So
I'll take the first crack at it. Yeah, we definitely have a cloud strategy, and in fact, a lot of NetApp's growth strategy is based on cloud, which is a bit unique as we are a storage vendor and we don't have our own cloud. But really our belief is storage is going to be a key critical component in any customer's cloud strategy, where the control and portability of data from the private environment to a public environment has to remain consistent, and moving that data from location to location, whether that's from public to private, becomes a very challenging task to do. So NetApp is really approaching cloud as trying to create a fabric to bind together these different cloud technologies, on-prem and off-prem, and give customers control and security of the data as they move it to location to location.
okay, that's interesting. So you're approaching it from a data standpoint. So what does that look like? Are you guys aligning yourselves with cloud providers, or what's the story there?
Yeah, you could definitely say that. I wouldn't say that we're aligning ourselves with any one cloud provider. NetApp has made a very conscious decision in the marketplace not to be a cloud provider, which differentiates us in some sense from other storage vendors. We don't have our own cloud service offerings. What we've offered then is to do a service provider type of program where NetApp technologies can be used by the service providers and go to market with them. So they'll have technologies or offerings back up to the cloud, store your data in the cloud, run virtual machines in the cloud, servers in the cloud, various cloud offerings that are based on NetApp technology. So they'll leverage the features and functionality that an ONTAP cluster brings to bear, and based on those, make different offerings to their customers. So our strategy in that sense is not to be a cloud provider, rather, but be the infrastructure underneath other people's cloud business.
I see. So what does that look like? Does that mean like on-prem I have a NetApp storage array, and then somehow there's a NetApp storage array off-prem, or is it just software? What does it kind of look like?
There's really three architectures that are in play here. There's the on-prem environments that the customers, we believe, will still always have some infrastructure on-prem for their crown jewels or critical applications that drive the business. And then there's two types of service providers that we're looking to support that we think customers are going to leverage. One type are what we call like a niche cloud service provider, a cloud service provider that builds their infrastructure using similar enterprise class infrastructure as what the customer has on-prem, but maybe has a unique offering, geographic location, maybe even just from an availability standpoint, the fact that they use enterprise class gear allows them to offer unique capabilities that the customer will find attractive. And so that may be one cloud provider that would have NetApp infrastructure embedded in there. We have a whole program to promote and support those sort of cloud providers to get up and running and create unique offerings for customers.
Sorry, so you mean that it's actually a NetApp storage system at the cloud provider then?
Exactly.
Okay.
That cloud provider may be exposing to the tenant for data transport or data control purposes.
So would data be replicating between on-prem and off?
Exactly.
Okay, using NetApp's like SnapMirror.
SnapMirror or SnapVault,
Okay,
data transport layers, exactly. And then the fact that the NetApp platforms are multi-tenant aware allows that transport to happen securely, and then once it's there, customers know that their data is securely fenced off from any other tenants that might be sharing that cloud service provider.
Okay.
The third architectures are the hyperscalers, and these are a new breed of infrastructure that generally use large, loosely coupled nodes of commodity hardware. So usually they're not built on infrastructure that in any way resembles what a customer has on-prem. And usually that means that they're lacking enterprise data management features like snapshots or cloning or replication or any sort of storage efficiencies. Although initially the costs seem very attractive, when they start trying to place applications that need that sort of functionalities, this can prove to be a problem. So for those, we're approaching those with software-based offerings, cloud on tap. So our operating system that's done entirely in software to let them run on these loosely coupled nodes to provide enterprise class data management, but leveraging their hardware instead of enterprise class hardware.
That's very interesting, because that's a very different story than what some of your competitors are talking about. They're trying to create hybrid cloud solutions and all that kind of stuff. I can see there's like an advantage in actually having this kind of solution, right? Where basically data is, I guess you could almost call it data mobility.
Indeed, yeah, we definitely see that as our advantage, and we've chosen to use data as the pivot point. But you see the common thread that goes through all the three types of offerings that Keith just described is that the customer maintains control of the data. So the fundamental belief, the fundamental design criteria that went into all of these offerings was that the customer maintains control of the data, and that it would be easy for them to get their data into the cloud, because cloud, as you said, is ultra popular right now and everybody wants to try it out. But it was be equally easy to get their data out of the cloud at that time, so they maintain control of the data. And while that seems sort of counterintuitive to a storage company to do that, the idea was that if we are very easy to use and are true utility type storage, turn it on when you need it, turn it off when you don't, then it would be a very popular offering in the market.
I can see it being very popular just because of the fact that we're very experienced in clouds. Like, we had our own cloud offering, we've done cloud migrations and stuff like that. And there are business partners of ours who are talking about hybrid cloud and bursting stuff into the cloud and bringing it back and so forth. But from my experience, it's easy to put stuff up there, but it's really hard to bring it back.
That's
right?
everyone else's experience.
And the funny part about that is that so the fact of the matter is you can burst out, if you will, compute pretty easily up there. But how do you get data there, and then how do you get it back? Some of our offerings, if you will, or our business partners' offerings rather, require a lot of leverage from us in order to do those migrations back and forth. But because you guys are replicating the data into the cloud, the data is always there. So bringing it back and forth, like true data mobility, true workload mobility, if you will, is much more realistic with your solution, it sounds like.
I've heard Dave Hitz, our founder, use the term that cloud is very cheap to fail, but very expensive to succeed. And what he meant by that is, for customers that try something in the cloud, they have an experiment, cloud allows them to very quickly vet the ideas. They can very quickly stand up in an environment, try an application, take an initiative that maybe gives them some business agility. And if it fails, they shut everything back down, and effectively that experiment didn't cost the company very much. But if that experiment succeeds, that infrastructure can become very expensive. And the whole idea of cloud being cheaper isn't the case if we're suddenly driving a ton of data and a ton of I/O to a particular cloud provider. And so suddenly they may be in a situation that, yes, they're driving value to the business, but this maybe is now a very expensive proposition that maybe should be brought back on-prem, whether for economic reasons or data security purposes. So the idea is giving them that flexibility, that if they try something in the cloud with the flexibility and agility and it succeeds, we give them that exit strategy to pull that data back in-house and then put it in the proper infrastructure that should actually be.
So that's a really good use case then. It's test dev basically out there. And then, if it's low risk at that point. And then if it's successful, because you have a replication relationship, you can bring the workload back without much pain. And so, that's a very interesting strategy. Very cool.
Customers that try cloud in the early days and are successful with it and then feel trapped, going, suddenly we have this gigantic bill every month, and I would love to get away from that. We were an early adopter, and now we're kind of in this situation where this is actually costing. We're pretty sure we can do this cheaper ourselves, but we can't because they have our data, and then we can't get out of this situation. And so, NetApp's idea, is to give customers that portability to move the data out of a cloud, or maybe just to a different cloud provider. The whole economics of cloud right now is still changing, that we want to give customers that flexibility to choose the infrastructure and the cloud technologies that best suit their business.
Cool. Well, thanks guys for joining me. That was a very enlightening discussion. And I guess that concludes our panel discussion. Thanks for joining us.